Welcome everyone. Good morning. Another Friday Connect and Share with Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, and I'm Laurie Mode. We have a jam-packed morning for you this morning, as we always do, and starting right on time at 10 a.m. So welcome everyone, and may I pay my respects to our Aboriginal elders past, present and emerging who understand this land, the sky and the sea so much better than we can ever imagine, and we need to work with them to understand how we can integrate their knowledge into our activities every day. We will kick off with a quick summary of the week and a couple of things that are around for everyone's knowledge, and then we're going to jump into a big presentation today, which is so exciting. I'm so pleased that James and Stacey are here to share this content with you. We've been talking about the future of our sector, and this is today. We're going to talk a lot about how we get back to capacity. But before we do that, can I just reiterate that we have the National Outdoor Education Conference virtual event coming up. It's hot on the horizon on the 29th of September. It is a short day. It's been from 10:30 to 4, but it's got some amazing content in there to help anyone that is in contact with outdoor education, including our very own Shane Fitzsimmons, who used to head up the RFS, who's now head of Resilience New South Wales, and helping us understand the learnings of some of what we've experienced in the last 18 months and what that means for the future, as well as Parsi Salberg, who is exceptionally knowledgeable in outdoor learning and nature play, Sharon Goldfeld the same, and our own Professor Tonya Gray. ACARA review, which we'll discuss with the CEO of ACARA. And then we'll give an update on the OCA Summit and the working groups, and they've been busily behind the scenes doing a hell of a lot of work in 3 different areas that we identified in May, which we needed to understand and change a few things to make our industry a lot better. And then we have nature play solely with Parsi, but also some great case studies from Centennial Parklands and, of course, the Outdoor Education Awards. So a great day. If you haven't registered, you can do so by jumping on the link there. Alternatively, if you have got a ticket for the 2022 conference, you will get the link as part of that. So you don't need to pay any more. You'll actually get access to that day. Okay, some ACT updates. So lockdown was extended to the 17th of September, and as of the 2nd of September, there was some amendments to the business restrictions. If you're unsure of any of this, you're certainly more than welcome to contact me and or Leslie, and we will help guide you through this. They actually have also infection control training for free available to all ACT businesses. So if you're interested, just go on to skills.act.gov.au and you can register for that training. Do it online and become COVID safe in your own training. So great opportunity there. New South Wales, what a big week. Yesterday we had huge announcements from the Premier in relation to the restrictions, and once we received that 70% double vax rate, we have some opportunities on the horizon for getting back some of our activities. But we do have some of the LGAs that come out tomorrow. So a full list was available in the members news that went out yesterday. And we also will have that on the website today. So if you wanted to get access to that, you can certainly do so through our own website. If you wanted to understand more about the report that was released this week in reference to children and COVID, this is substantial content around our outdoor education area. And if you're dealing with schools, it's really important for you to look at this and understand this, because the more we communicate the findings of this report, more we can get trust and belief in that we are not a risky area when it comes to outdoor education. So if you scan that QR code there, it'll take you to that website. Alternatively, you can certainly see on the National Centre for Immunisation Research. So yeah, with the LGAs, here's the list of the ones that aren't coming out. You are in lockdown like the Greater Sydney area until further notice. But if you are in one of those LGAs, please abide by the stay-at-home rules and ensure that we are encouraging everyone to continue to be vaccinated. Events coming up. Well, today, as I said, we've got an amazing presentation from our friends under Workforce Development and the New South Wales Government. And then we're following next week with Safe Work Australia, understanding a little bit about the challenges that you are having in relation to safe work going forward, and also in the vaccination area particularly. 23rd is actually a workshop, and Stacey or James might mention this today, but this is your opportunity to get more involved in what you'll hear about today, and it's solely about you connecting with this program and getting the benefit from it. The Friday the 24th, we'll be looking at trends that will affect us as business providers and also activities in Australia. It's actually a report from McCrindle Research, which we will summarise for you, which has some great understandings around what trends are happening in Australia and what will happen outside of lockdowns as well. The 11th of October is our AGM. So if you're wanting to come along and hear about the year that was and the year that will be, certainly register for that event, and you are more than welcome, as any of our members are. So as I said, I got Stacey, but then I got told James is presenting. So sorry, James, I haven't got a slide for you. But yeah, before I hand over to yourself, I just wanted to say to guys, yesterday was Are You OK Day. I hope you reached out to those around you and connected and asked them if they're okay. It's a conversation starter, and one that a lot of people, without really understanding, we can make a big change by just having some simple conversations. So James, are you okay?
I'm really good, given it's Friday. Thanks, Laurie, and it's good to be here talking to Outdoor New South Wales today. So yes, I'm okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll hand over to you then. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to get Stacey to share her screen, if that's okay, Laurie. Oh, here we go. So while she's doing that, I'll just do a brief introduction. So thanks for the opportunity to come along and address you this morning. Stacey and I work for a team called Workforce Development that is part of Training Services New South Wales. And we came into play in midway through last year as a response to the COVID crisis, as well as the bushfires, knowing that New South Wales was coming on the back of a couple of different disasters. And so our team was formed to work with organisations, larger employers that were coming to New South Wales, organisations that were looking to grow, and also sectors that were experiencing chronic skill shortages, to see what we could do to help you navigate through the world of vocational education and training, higher education, connections with schools, all the things that we can play with in New South Wales to help employers and sectors to ramp up their workforces. So we were introduced to Laurie and started having a conversation and learned a lot more about Outdoor New South Wales. And when we talked about it, we really realised we needed to be involved with your sector, and we're going to take you through today so the sort of levers that we can play with and pull to assist you to ramp up your workforces. It's no secret that in New South Wales, yes, we were coming out of COVID, and we were looking at low unemployment rates, sort of even better than before COVID. But we know coming out of this second lockdown across New South Wales, there's going to be another kick up in unemployment. But what Stacey and I know pretty well is that there's still some sectors of the community that, even when unemployment is low, they're still not employed. So, when we look at youth unemployment, for instance, in Western Sydney as an example, we've still got 15%, youth unemployment. So as we start to near full employment again, and we're confident that we will, our goal will be to start to look at cohorts of people that may not be engaging in the workforce, and how we're going to, trigger and get those people more involved to address the skill shortage needs. So in our 9 months, we've realised that there are a lot of sectors that are hurting right now in terms of skill shortages. So a lot of what we'll talk about today, we'll be covering in other sectors. So it's pretty well some setup, some mechanisms that you'll be able to tap into once we have our second meeting on the 23rd. But today we just want to give you a broad brush idea of what we can do, how we can support. We've already had some great meetings with Laurie to find out a lot about the sector and what your needs are. And so we're just going to take you through some of those ideas today. Happy to handle questions so you've got a greater understanding. Laurie, how long do we have? How long have you earmarked for us today?
You've got about 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Awesome. All right. I could talk all day about this stuff, so it's just better that we just, you rein me in when you need to. So, Stacey, I'll get you to move on to the next slide, if you would, please. And you'll see on this slide, as I said, we came into play last year very much around working with the Commonwealth. So our program is the Job Trainer program, currently working under Job Trainer 1, expecting an announcement soon around Job Trainer 2 and how we're going to work together with the Commonwealth. And one of our key points is that we do connect heavily with the Department of Employment under the Commonwealth to help people who are unemployed engage with work. We've got a number of significant campaigns in that space. So initially, as part of Job Trainer, it was about making people aware about skills programs that were available and looking at 2 million individuals being reached by some promotions and some training that was geared up at that time to help people get into work. There's an advice line where people can call to get advice around work and connections with work. Stacey and I work in a team of 4 people, but there's also a team of 16 skills brokers that operate across New South Wales. So once we have a deeper conversation with you as employers, we'll work out where you are, what regions you're in, and we'll likely connect you with the broker in that region who will implement on the ground any of the initiatives that we're going to be putting in place. So just be aware that we're part of a much bigger team. There will be some training, so no secret that we've got access to some funding under Smart and Skilled. One of the beauties of our team being set up was that we do have a small fund that applies to non-accredited training. So if there are barriers to getting people into work that can't be satisfied using vocational education and training, then we do have options to be able to help you overcome those barriers. So when we do have our consultations with you, it's important that you're upfront about what your barriers are, what are the concerns you've got. And you'll see there that, we do have access to some funding for full qualifications as well. And then the final piece there is actually helping connect people who are unemployed right now with work. They might be people coming out of school. They might be people currently unemployed. They may be people who are disengaged, not getting enough hours at the moment. We'll work with you on determining the best cohorts in your region and making those connections happen. So we'll move on to the next slide now. In terms of the things that we can offer, obviously, because we are part of Training Services New South Wales, we do have a heavy focus on vocational education and training. So where we're talking with employers, we're really keen to know, what sort of level of engagement you've got with the vocational education and training sector. What we often find is the level of knowledge in this space is quite low, and we're happy to advise and guide you. If we see a need to connect you with higher education, then we'll definitely have our connections in that space as well. We'll look at a whole of government approach. Often when we're looking at employers, we might find there might be a need that might be better served by Treasury or other areas within government. So we'll act in advisory capacity there to actually help you get access to that. Training incentives are a bit of an expert area for us. We'll connect you with the incentives that are available both federally and through the state government. We'll be looking at, skill shortage areas and overcoming challenges. One of the key things for us is you're not going to get a standard course that you must comply with. It'll be a bespoke program that we look at for your sector and even more specifically for your employer, for you as an employer, what you need. And we'll be drilling down, coming up with the best short course it might be, or a part qualification to assist with getting your needs satisfied. And again, just the final point here is that we're very future focused. We understand that employers and sectors across New South Wales are going to have to invest in their own pipeline of workforce. A lot of the issues and levers that we'll start to encourage you to play with are long term. They will be involved in putting longer term strategies in place so that if you've got a shortage now, what are we going to do to make sure that that shortage isn't part of the future? So that's very much our approach in working with you and with your sector. Stacey, we'll move on to the next one if we could, please. You'll just see here, this is sort of a bit of a snapshot of our offering. we're very much around looking at talent attraction. It does look at, as I mentioned, connecting with the DESI services in each region, depending on where you are. The team of REAP officers, so our REAP team, work closely with the schools, making sure that kids at school are aware of the opportunities that exist in your sector. Now, I'm not sure yet, and we'll get more information on this, how much work you've done in connecting with schools and how, what mums and dads know about this sector in terms of opportunities for the young people. But we'll work with you, and we've got a team of 25 officers across the state that will manage projects to help you build that profile in those regions, so that when kids are nearing end of their school, they've got an idea that, hey, yeah, I really want to get into this sector, and it does provide a long-term career option for me. So that's an area that we can definitely help in. I touched on the skills brokers before. Looking at the area of skills, a myriad of options here, anything from entry level through to looking at what your existing workforce might need. One of the things that Stacey and I are very aware of is that if you are an organisation that's about to ramp up, maybe you need to have some skills within your own organisation that will allow you to be able to springboard, allow you to bring new people on board, or allow you to bring new younger people on board that might need some extra mentoring or coaching. So that's definitely the area of skills that we will look at in giving you advice. In terms of partnerships, we touched on this before. We've got a number of touch points across government that we will link you to if we see a need. We can definitely assist with funding. One of the beauties of working with our team in a sector is that we can sort of short circuit funding on training if we believe it's necessary. And when we do meet on the 23rd, you'll see we've put some plans to Laurie around ramping up and pre-employment training and getting access to candidates. And so I don't want to steal the thunder of that day, but we will be able to fund those programs in pre-employment to help you. Just think of us as a concierge. So we've got the funnel here. We're out there looking at where candidates might be living at the moment. How do we apply some training to those people to get them into jobs? So the workforce development team really does have targets around getting people into work, as well as getting people into training to get them into work. So very much focused on unemployed people, people coming out of school, and disengaged people that we want to get involved if the New South Wales economy is going to be as successful as we need it to be. So I'll take it on to the next slide now. And I promise I'll pause soon and take some oxygen. But you'll see in this pipeline diagram here, very much around helping you access candidates through schools, looking at vocational education and training. Are there RTOs at the moment running training in the space that might have people coming out that can be placed with you? If you've got higher level needs that are satisfied by higher education, definitely. I mean, I've just come off a meeting with one university where we're finding out about the myriad of options that they've got in another sector that we can help engage employers with. Existing workforce I touched on before. This can be anything from, management skills, leadership skills, coaching skills, project management skills. We'll be teasing out what your thoughts are around your existing workforce as we meet with you. Definitely looking at, are there any displaced workers that might be sitting there that we can tap into, and drilling down on transferable skills. There's no secret that a lot of people have ended up unemployed as a result of COVID. Some of the skills that people might have in key areas that they might be looking at themselves and saying, gee, I don't want to go through another lockdown. Do I need to look for something in a more permanent sector that might get me work or a better career? And I guess that's our role in helping them to do that. In terms of access to schools, it's a big part of the team that we're part of, helping to promote school-based traineeships and apprenticeships, definitely touching on the REAP program, as we said, in terms of engaging with schools, looking at vet in schools. And these are things we'll be working with Laurie and the team around in terms of exploring what we might be able to do in that place. And we're also working on a pathway program in southwestern Sydney, which is in pilot at the moment under what we call the EPPP Education Pathway Pilot. So definitely got that connection with schools. If it's something that's on your agenda that you do want to build a stronger network with schools, then we'll be connecting our REAP teams in those areas to work with you in that space. This next slide just really touches on, what we can do and what we do as part of our mechanism. We will look at, engaging with traineeships and apprenticeships. We're big advocates for that model. It's no secret, and I've been in this sector for 20 years. Stacey's a lot younger than me, so, but in the 20 years, I can tell you it's never been more attractive for employers to take on a trainee or an apprentice. At the moment, you can get a 50% wage subsidy if you put someone into a traineeship up until the end of March next year. So that's a 50% subsidy for 12 months. And so there is a bit of a push on, we don't know what the Commonwealth will do into past March next year, but at the moment you can get up to $7,000 per quarter paid to you, a 50% subsidy on bringing on a trainee. So, if you're thinking about bringing on one, maybe you could bring on two because you could afford it more because the incentives are so strong in that space. But we'll also advise on the state incentives like payroll tax exemptions, those sorts of things, when we get to working with you in that space.
James, just on that's that wage subsidy, that's a federal program, isn't it? Because we've got a few other states on the line today.
Yeah, that's definitely a Commonwealth program, Laurie. So, and it is a 50% subsidy to get more people into apprenticeships and traineeships. It's no secret that, during COVID, we would have lost some apprentices and trainees in that they're usually the first to go in a downturn. So the initiative's really around getting us to ramp up those numbers in traineeships. Those of you who aren't familiar with a traineeship, it's about learning on the job as well as studying a program. So getting some theory to go along with what you're learning at work. There is an allowance that you're going to make to allow people some time to train during their employment, and that's what the incentives are paid for. Next slide just talks about our connections with universities. So definitely got those linkages. Once we start drilling down a little deeper into what your needs are, we will look to see whether we need to be linking you with universities in the space to assist with that. There may be even opportunities to look at people who might be studying at university that might be able to fund their university 6 years by doing some work in the outdoor New South Wales space. I don't know, we haven't explored that yet, but we're just starting to come up with ideas of where we might be able to link you in with cohorts of people that might be existing to assist. The next slide just talks about how we have worked with the Commonwealth, where we might fund some pre-employment training. One of our traditional models is we tend to get groups of people together, say 15 people, run them through 2 or 3 units of competence of training, get them exposed to the industry, and then have them do some work placement at your organisation. At the end of that time, you would get to choose whether you put them on as an employee or not, as a trainee or not. And that we would fund that whole process of the pre-employment training, and usually the RTO that's chosen to do that support would assist you in making sure that the insurance is covered for work placement. So you're getting a chance to see people before you actually have to employ them. And in that slide, you'll see, yeah, we've worked definitely with the Commonwealth in that space and continue to do it. So the engagement process in terms of the next slide there, it just talks about, I believe we are going to have a meeting on the 23rd of September where we'll talk about our plan for the sector that we put to Laurie yesterday. After that time, we'll be, referred to you. We'll be starting to have conversations with employers, and in that initial meeting, we'll be starting to drill down on what your needs are, how we can satisfy those needs. We'll walk away from that meeting, come back to you after we've done some research with some recommendations. And once you've decided that you wanted to go ahead with the plan that we would institute for you, then we would move forward, look at the funding, look at introducing you to registered training organisations, look at connecting you with the cohorts through DESI or schools or wherever it is that it lands once we've got through that process. So it is heavily focused on what are your needs. Definitely we expect to see some common needs between employers in this sector. And so we might end up with a sectorial response in terms of we run a program that supports a number of employers at once. But if you've got big enough needs, we'll definitely be looking at you one-on-one. And after that seminar that we hold on the 23rd, we'll be looking at the next piece, which will be, there'll be a mechanism for you to engage with us. And then we'll have a meeting, not unlike we are now, but we'll just be a few of us around a Zoom table to be able to have a conversation, do the research we need, and then come back with a recommendation. That's probably, and then, I guess for us, it's all about evaluation. Our program's been in place for 9 months, we're already seeing a huge need for what it is that we do in connecting employers with all the services that are needed to build a strong workforce. We can see that's a strong need, but we'll continue to review. We tend to pilot programs. So if we're working with you, we might pilot something and give it a crack and see how it goes and learn from it and then try it again. But we'll always be guided by what worked and what didn't. There's a heavy focus on us on spending money on getting people into training to get them into jobs. So when we are talking about investing in training, one of our questions for you will definitely be, what are the jobs at the other end? What are the job descriptions that you can share with us? How long are these jobs for? What are the number of hours that are being offered? And in a competitive market, you just need to make yourselves look as attractive as other employers that are hunting for similar people in the same space. I think the next slide just talks about what we're going to be providing. And we've kind of touched on a lot of this now. It's going to be advice around customizing programs to suit you. We'll be your advisor. Think of us as an extension to your HR team in terms of being able to advise you and connect you as appropriate. And then once we've gone down that path, we can connect you with industry training advisory bodies, registered training organisations, apprenticeship providers, if that's the case, if you need some support in that space. Group training organisation that's often a model that is preferred by employers because it's a lower risk of bringing on people, and you get a lot of support from group training, and we'll talk about that if we think it suits your needs once we do meet. Finally, those connection points with Commonwealth in terms of skills, employment opportunities, and bringing people together. So our next slide, and then we'll go to questions, is really about who we are and how to contact us. And Stace hasn't been well today, but I'll let her chime in now just to see if I've missed anything before we throw to questions. Stace, anything to add there? Or
no, but thank you very much, James. I think it's just today was just capturing a little bit of a snapshot about who we are and a little bit about what we're able to offer. But definitely on the 23rd will be more in-depth information about the services that we're proposing. We did a bit of a pitch to Laurie yesterday and she was quite happy, I think. So what we'll do is we'll actually explain more in-depth about the opportunities, the connections, and definitely gain some information from you as an employer and what your needs are, as James has explained. And we really hope to see you at the next event. But that's about it, James. Thanks.
Okay. And Laurie, I'm happy to handle questions if anyone's got them at this initial phase. So we've got a bit of time. So
yes, no, you did well. You did very well. Awesome. I'm getting all of these direct messages of people wanting to join. So that's awesome stuff. I mean, that's what this is designed for, with you guys in mind. I suppose just a bit of context. When I first reached out and had the discussion with what was Chris and Stacey and then James, and it was around trying to solidify an opportunity that had not only our needs now considered, but long term. And that's what I was so pleased with what Stacey and James presented yesterday to me, is that it really does look at the both ends. And I know some of you on the line, we've got some RTOs on the line as well, and I don't want to put Peter or Nerida on the spot, but we've got some very experienced people in the vet sector with us today. But yeah, look, any questions? I'd love to open it up and just get some feeling for what you might want to ask James, but also considerations. What are you needing from staff as soon as you do get back to activity? What are you looking for from potential applicants? Jump in, anyone. They're all quiet today. I'm just getting private messages. They know it's recording. Okay.
Laurie, I'll jump in there if there is some RTOs on the line as well. Very happy to engage with the RTOs. Obviously, we're going to be looking at funding some programs as part of the plan we put to you. And, if we've got RTOs that are sector specific in this regard, that have got a clear understanding and respected by the employers, obviously, you know, we're halfway down the path. So would love to connect with them as we go forward on this plan after the 23rd. So
yeah, brilliant. I actually have a question I'd love you guys to tackle for our audiences. The work you've done in other sectors, what have been some of the results or learnings perhaps from other industries you've worked with that may work for us?
Gee, I guess one of the things I'd have to say there, Laurie, is one of the things we've learned is the best employers that put a good face forward in terms of the experience that their candidates are going to have at work are the ones that do better. So our challenge often to employers is, what are you doing to really encapsulate what the employee value proposition is for someone coming to work with you? And if we are able to put that clearly to the cohorts that we're working with, we have a better result. But so, I mean, even in the time between now and the 23rd, if you're looking at doing some work for us, the key things for us is we're going to be looking for job descriptions. So we really need to see clear job descriptions. If you're able to offer, you know, some form of permanency over casual, employees these days are really crying out for that. We understand the nature of the sector might mean that that's difficult, but I'm just giving you our experience in terms of if you can offer a little more than what's being offered, then you will attract the better candidates. In terms of training, we've seen some fantastic results. In our first pilot that we did with another sector, you know, we started with 15 candidates that went through some pre-employment training, and 9 people ended up with full-time jobs at the end of that. So, you know, those sort of results for us and attracting people who may not have even been exposed to that sector before are outstanding. And if we can replicate that across your sector, I believe that would be very useful as well. And the other thing is, if employers can show a willingness to learn, you know, that existing worker piece that I spoke of is hugely important. If you are looking at bringing on younger people into your organisations, making sure that there's good mentoring and support for them. If people are going to apply for jobs, are they getting, you know, good feedback once they've been through a job interview and a chat? These are all the things that we see that work. Those employers that just set up a web page and then, you know, you get a call if we like you and you don't hear anything, you know, then forget about that job, then that's not great. You know, people have, you know, especially young people today need more support in that space because it is a bit of a rough and tumble world when you start to enter employment. But the employers that do better in that space and word of mouth feeds on, you know, are the ones that end up with better plans and more long-term stable workforces. So we do, I mean, we work, no secret, working very closely in the early childcare sector. The shortages in that sector are chronic. We do see a little bit of, you know, connection in that area. We're doing a lot of work in the aged care sector. And again, shortages in that area are chronic. I think you guys have an attractive employment value proposition from what I can see. I'd love to come work for the sector. And I think that's the key to that. We'll be putting that forward when we start introducing cohorts to the sector in encouraging them to choose your sector over others. So
yeah, brilliant. And I mean, I'm not telling anyone on this line anything new when I say we've got a long way to go to get our sector as part of the thinking or the consideration mindset. I certainly saw that in the very early days in this role, particularly at the school. So I'm just so excited that, you know, we're able to look at that with you guys. The conversations at school, like everyone will do school camp or there'll be an education element in the outdoors, but it's not a consideration mindset for a career path. And hopefully some work that we're doing at the moment with Department of Education and in some of the stage 5 stuff will build a bit of a guide for people to continue a career path outside of school, if we can just connect the schools with it as well, and enable them to promote it as one of the options for people. That excites me. Anything...
The other thing I'll just touch on, Laurie, is just in terms of, if you've got any online presence that we can point to throughout the process of candidate attraction, and it might be short videos on YouTube or whatever it might be that might encapsulate the experience that someone will have if they come and work in the sector. And I'm sure you've got lots of those, and maybe we'll start to look at what's available, because if we can draw people to an online presence at the moment, given the current lockdown situation, we're going to have more chance of attracting them across when we start looking at workforce. So
yeah, brilliant. James, that was a great segue to my promotion on our video. So you might remember, I think it was last week, I shared with you our workforce promotional video to get a bit of context in what options are available in the outdoors for people. Thank you to everyone who's jumped forward and said, stick my logo on that. There's a hell of a lot of those videos out there that are all branded with your own logos now. Please share away. We've got to get a bigger noise, a bigger awareness out there about the opportunities in our sector, and the program that Stacey and James are helping us with will only help to amplify, but actually get some tangible results for you all. So reach out if you haven't got your branded videos and content yet. I've got quite a lot that have been done, so but happy to do more. And I think, as James said, having things that they can use. Don't forget, we've got Outdoor Work Facebook page, we've got Outdoor Work Instagram as well, and we'll certainly push a lot of that content to those resources and our own website as well. So if you've got jobs, please let us know. We'll share them amongst the social networks. But as we start ramping back and getting back to work, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of needs out there, and this is a start to helping you connect with those opportunities. Any final questions, comments, or anything relating to recruitment and workforce? Nerida, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did you want to just talk to what we discussed the other day? I am putting you totally on the spot. Oh, I think she's gone. Oh, she had to duck off. Okay. Just in relation to Nerida, Nerida, you might remember, came and addressed us last year. She is in the TAFE area and looks at the needs of TAFE, and we're trying to look at some different models and how we can connect TAFE to our workforce and getting them quickly qualified and up to speed as quickly as we possibly can, so that we can get them into a position that's going to be of worth for each and every one of you. So when more of that content comes out, and I can see Peter on the line, Peter, you can talk to what you're doing if you wanted to, again, putting you on the spot, but some great initiatives are certainly coming out, and we'll continue on that until we get our full cohort and full capacity back to running. Anything else on workforce? Otherwise, we'll close that subject and get on to analysing what coming back out of lockdown looks like. So thank you so much, James. Thanks, Stacey. I've got a lot of messages I need to go through in this chat box, and no doubt we're going to have a great contingent of people there on the 23rd. So just reminding everyone, 23rd of September, 10:30 to 12. We might finish a little bit early, just giving you a bit of a buffer there, but it's really important you come, and we'll talk about the needs that you have and connect with James and Stacey's programs. So thank you, guys.
Thanks
Great to have you.
And look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Awesome. And Stacey, get better.
That's right. Yeah, Stacey, get better. Yeah.
Awesome. Bye. See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, just on the topic of getting back to normal, if there is such a thing as normal, and we've all talked about what that post-COVID outlook's looking like. We've got a strategic group that's meeting Wednesdays and looking at options that are going to be available for you. There's some new industry resources that will be on our website very soon. It'll include things like best practice, mask wearing, COVID safe guidance that is very different from Delta to what we had last year. So that all those resources will be updated on our website very soon. But as far as coming out into the dates that the Premier announced yesterday, I think we've got a gauge that 1 December is certainly the aim at this point in time. That looks like being the Monday after 70% double vaccinations for Greater Sydney and anyone that's not out of lockdown by then. So that's certainly the predicted time frame. That could obviously change if we don't get our vaccinations at the predicted rate. So obviously encouraging everyone that if we do want to get back to proper program and proper activity, that we encourage as many people as possible to get that vaccination. Any questions associated with the announcement from the Premier or other in relation to that? Jump in. Pete, I noticed your little message there. Do you want to just quickly jump in and talk about your program?
Yeah, no problems. Thanks, Laurie. Hi, everyone. So just an update on, so with TAFE New South Wales, Hayley and I from the Blue Mountains, we're working quite closely to try and work out how we better can support industry with training. So we're both at the moment oversubscribed with Cert 3s and Cert 4s, which is fantastic. So we always knew momentum would start to shift and come along, and it seems to be that way. So at the moment, it's still for us, pretty much a year-long process to get people from trained into the workforce. And now we've had a chat with Stacey and James also, so we're trying to work out how we can better support industry. So looking at traineeships. And essentially in the past, the problems that we've had with traineeships and industries had working with TAFE with traineeships. So we're looking at different models of potentially having, pods of different areas with the state where people come together and train in that area. So we don't have the sort of exhaustive resources just for one person in one area, because we just can't afford to do that. So how can we better support each other? So we would have, a pod of students in the South Coast, a pod in the North Coast, West, wherever they are, and doing that training, because essentially what we look at, the workplace is really good in our training package at doing 60 to 65%, but then we struggle as TAFE to sign off against the training package that last 30%. So there's real technical things, whether it be off-track navigation that they don't do with your, these sort of things. So how can we support that by potentially, instead of taking them away from the area, which is time consuming for you guys, working going, okay, where's your downtime? Let's get a pod together and we'll go away for a week, and then we can do potentially off-track navigation. So we tick off what's required in the training package. And although you may not need that, the student has to have it. And that's always been the problem for us. So we can look at doing things like that. So that's the sort of things we're looking at. If through Stacey and Josh, we get enough people, which I'm sure we will, then we can look at having, trainee coordinators, which are just looking at traineeships. At the moment, it's always just put on our existing casual staff, because we're all casual. And then it just becomes too exhaustive, because administratively it's enormous. Often you've got sort of, I guess, low motivation with students doing the paperwork on their own. And then time is always poor. So they're overworked, they're tired. So how do we do that? How do we better support that? So they're the sort of things we're looking at.
Yeah, so good, Pete. Thank you so much for your proactive nature in this area as well, because I can see some of the names on screen here, and just the struggle of having that balance between people in the business doing what they need to and having those calls that they need them to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And having any questions?
Yeah, great. Any questions from anyone in relation to that? Is there certain obstacles that you're seeing that we're not looking at? I think they're all a bit camera shy. Anyway, if you do, drop us a line and I'll certainly share it with Pete, and he might be able to come back to you, or I can certainly support you. Nerida was on the line earlier, which she must have had something else that she had to go with, but it's great to see that she's engaged in this whole conversation as well. Certainly on Nerida's position, Pete, she's head of what is her position? I'm trying to change.
So she's in charge. I think it's similar to James and Stacey. She's in to industry consultation across the board, across the whole section. Yeah. And she's trying to work out just what we're doing at a sort of micro scale. She's doing that as a macro scale of going, you know, where can we get better at TAFE working with, getting that relationship to work better between TAFE and industry, because you know we've been so stagnant and structured, it's very difficult. So how do we make that work better between the constraints we have and industry?
Look, and just compliments to TAFE on that we're engaging at all levels to make this work. So thank you very much for that, and I'm just really excited about this workforce development activity because it's all lining up, and I think, you know, by having that program that we can all participate in is only going to make it better. So again, 23rd of September is the date for the workshop. So if you haven't already told me in the chat that you're coming, let me know. 10:30 to 12, and we'll certainly tell all about what our needs are so that they can help connect the right people to our work. Awesome, guys. Anything else anyone wants to bring forward today? Leslie, we might stop the recording now, enable people to have a bit of a freedom of chat. Thank you